Are HAP payments helping or hurting the housing crisis? Welcome back to Ireland on a Budget. I would like to preface this video just by saying that I know well that HAP isn't the only thing that is contributing to this housing crisis. There are so many things that could be done to fix this housing crisis, so many things that have contributed to the housing crisis going back years. And I think it's important to note that I think it could be fixed a lot easier than it is made out. I think that if the government really wanted to fix this problem, that they could fix it quite quickly. The HAP payment was never meant to be permanent. So it was a plaster that was basically put onto the problem. And I think what we can all see now is that this plaster is coming off in the wash. I would also like to say, just in the interest of full transparency, that myself and my husband receive a HAP payment, which we are very grateful for. It's a small contribution towards our rent, which is already high. We are very, very grateful for that help. So what I'm saying here is not that, people aren't grateful for the help that they're receiving. But just because we're grateful for something, it doesn't mean that we can't speak out about the possibility that maybe it's part of the problem. So the HAP payments were introduced in 2014, and that was through the Fine Gael Labour coalition government. I believe Phil Hogan was the minister at the time. The payment was rolled out gradually, so it was pilot counties at first, and then by early 2017, it would have been then nationwide. And what it does is it allows people in social housing or people in need of social housing to be able to access the accommodation that they need. So the government is basically paying the landlords, the private landlords, to house people in need of social housing. So now let's get into it, okay? So there was an article in the Irish Times in 2023 that said that the government spent 515 million on HAP payments, and I assume that was for the previous year. Currently, it is actually more like 525 million, but for the video, I'm just going to go off of the 515 million that was written down in the article. So that is 515 million that has come out of the government pocket and has gone straight to private landlords. That money is gone. So nothing is coming back from that money for the government. So here is my little doodled solution, okay? So if you were to take that 515 million, okay, and you spread that out, you've got 2 years of that, okay? So you take 2 years, so you've got 1.3 billion, okay? So you take that 1.3 billion. What you're going to do is you're going to pause the HAP payments for 2 years, and you're going to do what people have been calling the government to do for God knows how long, and put a cap on rents. You're going to bring back the eviction bans for those 2 years, okay? And this is literally like a nationwide thing. Like, everybody has to be in on this. Everybody has to want to fix the housing crisis to be able to go along with this and agree with this. Because basically by capping the rent and by putting a ban on the evictions, what you're doing there is you're protecting the renters. You're protecting the most vulnerable people as well, in knowing that they are secure, okay, in this first 2 years. And then I have my notes here, okay? So you're going to take this 1.3 billion and you're going to use that to build houses. So an average of, say, 275,000 to build a house. So if you have 1.3 billion, that works out at 3,745 homes built in 2 years, okay? Now that alone isn't going to solve the housing crisis, but it's a mighty start, right? So those are government owned, secured, affordable houses, okay? So let's say some of those could be affordable homes for people to buy, but let's just assume that they're all social housing for rent, okay? So each home is going to bring in approximately 400 monthly rent. I know that sometimes it can be more than that because it is means tested, but just for the purpose of the video, we're going to say 400 monthly rent, okay? So that's 3,745 homes. That is 1.5 million per month in income that the government is then getting back off of those homes. That's 18 million per year back to the government to build more homes, okay? So in year 2, say, because that's over 2 years, you've got those 3,700 homes, okay? So in year 2, you have built 65 more homes with the 18 million. The year after that, you've got 18.3 million in incomes. That builds 66 more homes, etc., etc., okay? That's not gonna solve the crisis fast, okay? It's gonna do a good chunk, like, to start off. Um, but that's not even bringing into account like all the other things that could be done, like buying houses back off of NAMA for cost price, and um stopping any spending that is not essential, for instance bike sheds. So you could do it that way, or you could cap rents permanently, okay? Maybe the eviction ban doesn't come in, maybe it's a 2 year thing, whatever. um or you could cap rents for the foreseeable future, okay? Cap rents so that people are not struggling as much, so that the HAP payment can permanently be put to something else, okay? So that 515 or whatever it is now can be put to public housing every single year. So what that does, again, it's not a quick solution. There's never going to be like all of these homes built within a couple of years, okay? But what that would do, if you were able to cap rents so that people didn't need the HAP payment, you'd be able to redirect that 515 million per year to building public housing. You've got all of the income coming back off of the rent and off of people buying those houses. Within 30 to 35 years, you've solved the housing crisis. And so in turn, what that's going to do is it's going to lower demand in the private market, meaning that landlords and people selling their homes cannot name their price to the extent that they are now. Rents will start to go down. Buyers are going to feel a lot less pressure. Buying up housing stock wouldn't be such a massive investment for vulture funds anymore, because they're not going to be getting the profits from it that they're getting at the moment. Housing prices would stabilise or drop. You would also have renters would have more choice in the market, more choice as to where they want to live. They would have more power to say, like, I don't want to live there because it's substandard. Whereas nowadays you're lucky to get anywhere. You have to just take what you're given. The government doesn't want to build social housing because it will upset the private market. But all that shows is that they're putting investors' profits before the Irish people. Now, look, I'm not in government. I'm not a politician. I'm just a mum. I clean houses for a living. So who am I to talk, really? But I can see that there are so many solutions, and we're being gaslit into thinking that housing people has to be complicated. The reality of it is our government should be protecting us. They are there to protect us, and they're choosing not to.